date is July 28, 2025. This is Luciana Spracher, representing the City of Savannah's Municipal Archives. I am interviewing Marie Hall for the Savannah Community Memory Project, and we are conducting this interview at Woodville Community Center. Thank you for joining us today.
You're welcome. It's good to be here.
Let's start by having you tell us your full name.
Marie Carter Hall.
When were you born?
I was born August 1, 1953.
And where were you born?
I was born in Savannah at Georgia Infirmary Hospital.
And who were your parents?
Geneva and Leonard Carter.
And are they from Savannah?
No, my dad is from Timmonsville, South Carolina, and my mother is from Kingstree, South Carolina.
Do you know how they ended up in Savannah?
They do. Daddy had a cousin who, actually he was good friends with Frank Forward, who is my mom's cousin, and they worked together on different projects. And so Daddy learned about the opportunity in Savannah, and so they moved. They were working, commuting, I would say, first to help build bridges, and then they eventually moved to Savannah.
So your father was building bridges?
He was helping build bridges, yeah.
Do you know what company that was for?
I don't. I really don't.
And did he do that for his whole career, or did he do something else?
No, Dad had been in the military. He was in, I think, a cook in the Army, so he had served time in the military. I don't remember where he and my mom met, but from being from Florence, South Carolina, in Timmonsville area, that's how he ended up, I think, meeting my mom, because of Frank, who is my mom's cousin. My cousin Frank and my mother were son and daughter of sisters.
Did your mother work outside of the household?
No.
Did you have siblings?
I did. There were 8 of us, 4 girls and 4 boys. The oldest is a boy, Leon, and then my sister Shirley, then Marianne, then Genevieve, and then Junior, which is Leonard, named after my dad, and then Jerome, and then Kenneth. I'm in between Kenneth and Jerome. So I'm the youngest girl. Kenneth, which we call Pumpkin, is the youngest boy. So yeah, he was the baby.
And where was your family living when you were born?
In Savannah.
What neighborhood, maybe?
In Woodville. I don't know if it was called Woodville at the time, but yeah, it was Woodville. Well, yeah, it would have been called Woodville. And my earliest memories are us living on Fair Street. And Fair Street is right down the road. That's the street we turned off to get to the Woodville Center. Yeah, so my earliest memory is being on Fair Street. We lived in row houses. That's what I'm calling them. I'm assuming they were row houses. They were wooden houses, and I think I later learned that they may have been called shotgun houses, where you can see from the front to the back. But those are my earliest memories. So I think I would have been around 2 or 3. My next memory would have been when we lived on the east side. We lived near a horse stable. You could look out our living room window and see the horses. That's how close we were. I went to kindergarten while we lived over there on the east side. I don't remember what street we were on. And then I think when I was about 6 or 7, we moved to Listener Avenue. And that's where we were until my parents, till we were all grown.
Okay, so Lister is where you spent most of your childhood.
Yeah.
Where did you go to school while you were growing up over here?
Tompkins Elementary, Scott Middle, Mercer Middle, and Tompkins High.
Let's talk a little bit about that childhood. Talk about Tompkins Elementary. What are your memories, teachers?
Oh my goodness. Miss Washington was my favorite teacher, and I think I remember her because, number one, she was so pretty to me, but also we were able to sit in her lap and read, and I loved reading. I remember us having reading groups, and I remember how she would group us, in different grouping pairs, and give us the opportunity to read to her. I love that. We walked to school. We didn't have buses at that time, so we walked to school. And usually you were walking with people who lived either on the same street you lived on or right behind you. So elementary school was really good. I mean, we felt like life was really wonderful, but we had never been anyplace else. So we had very great community ties. Everybody looked out for one another. Families had the same values. They believed kind of in the same things. And so no matter what street you're on, when you were walking to school, somebody was always watching you. And if you did something you weren't supposed to, by the time you got back home, your mom knew about it. So yeah, but elementary school was great. I remember Miss Thomas. She is now Dr. Priscilla Thomas. She was my teacher. I think I had Miss Thomas when I was in 4th grade, I believe. She was another excellent teacher. It just seemed like they were very nurturing. They didn't take any mess. They didn't play when it came down to classroom instruction, but you knew that they loved you, you knew they cared about you, and they had no problems with letting your mom or dad know what was going on with you. So great childhood, great wonderful childhood, yeah.
Okay. What did you do for fun in the neighborhood growing up?
Well, we lived on Listener Avenue, which was, it didn't seem unusual to kids then, but we lived right across the street from trucking companies. So you had tractor trailers, going up and down the road a lot when we were little. So we would have to play in the street, but when the trucks would come by, we'd have to get out of the street. But we had a lot of space that we could play with each other. We played at each other's house. We played marbles. We played jumping jacks, hopscotch. Sometimes our parents would join us. My mom was really big about playing jump rope and hopscotch and marbles. She was a cheater, by the way. She had the big marble ball, and we had the smaller one, so she always won. But yeah, we had a wonderful neighborhood. They looked out for each other. If there was a neighbor in the community that was lacking, in any way, the other community members would step in to help out. My parents were really big about looking out for our neighbors who needed that support. It wasn't uncommon for mom to share Sunday meals quite often.
So I've heard your mother might have made candy apples.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
Can you describe those?
Well, I told you she didn't work outside of the home, so one of her ways to help with the finances was baking cakes and pies, but also selling candy apples. And she was just known throughout the community for her candy apples. We would have to help her make them. I remember spreading out the wax paper and putting butter over the paper so the candy apples wouldn't stick. I remember having to put the sticks in the apples, and the way she taught us to test to see if the candy was ready for the apples, and trying to be careful not to get burned. And it wasn't just the kids, it was the adults as well. They would send their kids to our house to buy candy apples. So she did really well. She was well known for her candy apples. Even in school with the teachers. Dad, to supplement our income, he was a longshoreman, so he was able to take care of all 10 of us. But of course, in any family that size, there's some challenges. So Daddy sold crabs. I was talking to my sisters the other day to ask them about some of the things they remember, and they remembered the crabs were 3 for a quarter, 6 for 50 cents, and 12 for $1. I can't believe that. But he did. He had this big black kettle in the backyard that he would fire up. He did no advertising. They could smell the crabs boiling. And so they would know when Carter, that's what they call my dad, when Carter was cooking crabs. So they would just send and he'd sell them in a paper bag.
So would he go out fishing for them? Or not crabbing,
no.
I should say crabbing.
Yeah, no, he didn't. He bought them. They used to sell them by the bushel, I guess, in a wood rectangular crate. He would have them delivered to the house, and then he would cook them and sell them. Yeah.
Do you know what your mother was selling the apples for?
My God, I'm thinking 15 cents. It depended on the size. The smaller ones were maybe 15, 25 cents, and then the larger ones were maybe a quarter. But then as time went on, I'm sure she raised the price. So.
What, you mentioned she made cakes and things like that. What would be her favorite baked item that she made?
Oh, now.
Or your favorite
Yeah, for
first?
me, it was coconut cake and coconut pie. But her sweet potato pies were just worldwide. She would do fruit cakes, and she would send all of us for Christmas after we got grown a fruit cake or whatever else we liked. But I loved her fruit cakes. It just, Christmas in the community was so special. You didn't get a lot of toys, so the few that you got, you really appreciated. But the food, I think, is what made the Christmases so special. Because every house, you could go in and smell the Christmassy smell of things that were cooking and going on. And then on Christmas Day, it was like the whole neighbors were out, enjoying the day, and sometimes going from house to house to see what the other person cooked or what would be shared. But it was just a loving and caring and growing up community. They weren't highly educated. My dad may have finished first grade, my mom the 9th grade, but she's one of the best financial planners that I know. And my dad is one of the best providers. He improvised to make sure that we got what we needed. So they were hardworking people, but they were loving and caring.
Do you still live in Woodville today?
No, after I graduated from Tompkins High, I moved to Atlanta. Lived in Atlanta up until 2016, and then we moved back to Savannah. But now we live in Lincoln. And when I was growing up, I had never even heard of Lincoln, but now we live in Lincoln, yeah.
So what was your path after graduating from high school then?
After high school, I got married, very young, got married. My husband and I had 2 children. After they were all, my oldest son was in the military. My youngest son passed away when he was 16, right before 16, and I went back to school. Because I had tried going to college before, but with kids it was hard. So I went back to school at 49, graduated, and then I taught for about 10 years, and then I went into administration about 3 years.
What did you teach?
English, middle school. Yeah, that was, I was the only child of my parents that graduated from college. And that was a big deal, because my mom was able, my dad had already passed, but my mom was able to come to my college graduation. So that was really nice, yeah.
Okay, so going back to Woodville,
Mhm.
talk about some of the, as you were growing up, some of the people, maybe the adults, the elders that maybe you looked up to or influenced you, maybe, in addition to your parents, maybe that you felt maybe were helping to raise you.
Yeah, they're, our next door neighbors, Miss Pearl and Mr. Prince, and the neighbors next to them, the Prescotts and the Washingtons, they were all influential in our rearing. But I think the one that may have had the most impact, and probably I didn't realize that until after I got older, was Mr. Wright. We called him Reverend Mr. Wright. He was a preacher. My dad would take me with him. They lived right behind us, and my dad would take me with him to Mr. Wright's house, who was married, and they had several children, but we would have Bible study. And I was the designated reader for Bible study. And Mr. Wright, he was so eloquent in how he knew the Bible and how he taught the Bible. And he and Dad would have great conversations about that. Mr. Wright would sit on the porch during the day, and I remember one day I had been over to a girlfriend's house. She called me to come over. She saw I had just got off the bus, went to her house, and when I got in there was somebody in there, tried to molest me. I came running out of the house, and Mr. Wright jumped up. He could tell something was wrong right away, and so he came over off the porch to make sure that I was okay and got me home okay. And I never forgot that. I think it showed me that it wasn't just him sitting on the porch, being nosy, but it was him watching out for the community. So that was really a turning point in my I already had great respect for him, but even more so after that. Another person in the community, I think, would be the Stones, Miss Geneva and Mr. Cap. Miss Geneva was that kind of gentle, caring person. She was just really nice, and her doors were always open. So, gosh, it was, it was quite a few more because you had so many. Back then, families usually consisted of a mom and a dad and several kids. We had, single family community homes, but it wasn't that many. And it didn't stand out because everybody kind of just blended in and helped out. So, yeah, that was it. But I think just about everybody on our street, we kind of looked up to and respected because we knew whatever we did, if it was wrong, it was going to get bad, even after they corrected us. So yeah, that was it. And of course, some of the teachers, we looked up to our teachers too.
Were there any businesses or churches that you want to talk about that were in the neighborhood?
Well, Mount Zion Baptist Church on Fair Street was the church of the neighborhood. They had a bus that would go through and pick you up for Sunday school. We did all of our Easter speeches there. So that was the staple church in the community. If you didn't have your own church that you specifically went to, usually you went to Mount Zion, Fair Street. I remember my Sunday school teacher, Miss Sadie. She was a short, heavy-set lady, and she always taught with these, I'm going to say, index size Sunday school cards. And after she taught the lesson, we had to recite a Bible verse, and we had to remember. And then at the end, she would give us all a little treat. But she didn't play. She didn't play, and you had to be paying attention because she was going to ask you some questions. And for the Sunday school, for the Easter Sundays, you had to have a speech. Our parents came out and you better get up there and say it right. And on Easter Mondays, that's when we had Easter egg hunt. And school was out. School was out for Easter Monday, so that was a big to-do. Now once after we got a little older, my mom and dad joined Green Grove Baptist Church, and that was on the other side, on the east side of town. So that became our church that we would go to, even though we had grown up going to Mount Zion. But the church leadership at Green Grove, that was a big part of our life too, because Dad would take us and drop us off for Sunday school, and then he'd go back and pick Mom up. She would be fixing dinner so that we would make it to Sunday school, and then he would pick her up, and then we'd all be in church. So it was just a wonderful time of knowing family and family values and what the expectations are. So yeah, church played a big role in our lives back then. We had church field trips and church outings. We look forward to the church anniversary, the church homecoming. That was really big. Yeah.
How have you seen Woodville change over the years? Like, you went away and now you come back. How has it changed?
Yeah. I would say, and you see it progressing over the years. As the parents who were there when I was growing up, like my parents, as they die out, a lot of their children that have already moved away, and so the houses sometimes are left vacant or empty, not cared for. So it doesn't have the vibrancy that it had when we were growing up, of course, because there's not as many kids around. I think children is what makes the community so vibrant. So you have older community members now, but not as many younger community members. But even in saying that, I now see some changes even in that area, because now I see that as those homes are sitting vacant, you have others who come in and invest and are now purchasing those homes and then remodeling, and you do have others moving in now who do seem to want to make sure that the neighborhood is vibrant. So it's going through that transformation from being vibrant with children and communities and families to almost blight. One thing I do remember though, and I know I'm getting off subject a little bit, but it seems there wasn't the structural care of the city that it needed. I can remember, especially in front of our house, when it rained really hard, water would just pool up in the front of like maybe 3 or 4 homes on our street because of the poor drainage. And being that it was right across from a trucking company, the roads got worn really bad. After I got older and left, it kind of bothered me that they would allow homes to be built right across from a trucking company, and I wondered about that. I kind of feel like if it wasn't, a black community, they may not have gotten away with that, especially if they had known what the zoning laws and those kinds of things were. So, but in spite of that, we have a wonderful childhood. So I think the neighborhood is going to, if the city goes in and do the proper things that they need to do in terms of the infrastructure, and I know they've started working on some of those things, and you have people investing into moving into the community who really care about what the community looks like and its value, I think it's going to get back.
So you brought some things in today to share with us.
Oh, well, my parents didn't have cameras, we didn't take a lot of pictures, and I just don't have a lot of pictures of us growing up. But one picture I was able to find, and I'm not going to show my sisters because she doesn't like this picture, but I believe I was in 1st grade, and this is the only childhood picture I could find.
That's you in 1st grade?
In 1st grade, yeah.
And when you were talking about the first teacher, Mrs. Washington, what grade was she?
1st grade.
1st grade, so that's when you were learning to read with Miss Washington.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I actually had learned to read in kindergarten, but Miss Washington was able to not only increase my ability, but let me flourish.
Well, your love. Well, and did that? You went on to be an English teacher, and I wonder if that's where it started.
Yeah, I wonder because I love to read. As a matter of fact, one of the things we did growing up is we used to take our reading book and play this game called reading, and you would take turns reading the stories, and if you made a mistake, you lost your turn, and then you had to start all the way back over. And so I pride myself, even though I was one of the youngest, that I usually did pretty good in that exercise.
Was your father a good reader? I know you said he made it through 1st grade.
Well, and I meant to tell you about that. I didn't know until I left home that my dad couldn't read. I thought he could read. I would see him on the porch with the paper, looking at the paper. But then I remember I told you we used to go to Mr. Wright's house for Bible study. I would always have to do all of the reading. And I liked it, so I didn't think anything of it. But when we got home, he would have me read it again, but then he'd have me read it like 4 or 5 times.
I wonder if he was trying to follow along with you.
Well, he was a deacon in the church. And as a deacon in the church, they had to recite certain scriptures. And so he was memorizing the scripture so that Sunday he would know it. When I realized that, I was more impressed by his commitment. His mom died when he was very young, before He even went to school, I think his mom died. And his dad remarried, but she didn't allow them to go to school. They had to work around the house and on the farm, and she just didn't allow them to get an education. So, and he loved her so. He loved her so. But it just made me love him even more, because I used to get frustrated sometimes because I wanted to read more, but he kept making me go back over the same thing. And at first I thought, well, did I do something wrong? But then because he would say, okay, now read that one more time for me. And then I would read it and get ready to move on. He said, well, no, one more time. So, but yeah, it just made me love him even more. The other thing I meant to talk about is when I went to elementary school, Tompkins Elementary, from 1st to 6th grade. I don't remember having issues with segregation or discrimination, but then when I got to 8th grade, they bused us from, I was supposed to go to Tompkins High, but they bused us over to Mercer because they wanted to integrate us. But I felt like we were being punished because they made us leave our neighborhood to go over to be at another school. And that year, I really felt the sting of segregation. I remember this young lady that was in my gym class. I saw her at the mall, and I went, hey, Marcy, or whatever her name was, and she turned her back. That really impacted me. It made me look at the whole school experience differently. You know, of course, as you get older, you realize that some of it is taught. But growing up in our little community in Woodville, you didn't feel that because you weren't, you kind of stayed right there in that bubble. So, but it still doesn't take away from the wonderful, loving environment that we had in that community. This picture is a picture of my mom and dad, and this is on the front porch on Listener Avenue. This is our home that we grew up in, and that's my mom and dad.
Who's sitting on her lap?
That's my nephew, my youngest brother's son.
What's his name?
Kenny. His dad is Kenneth Carter. We call him Pumpkin. This is Pumpkin's son, Kenny Jr. Yeah.
And I know you said your parents' names already, but just since you're
Yeah,
holding the
this
photo
is,
up.
my dad is Leonard Carter, and my mom is Geneva Carter. Yeah. And this is a bigger picture of him.
Zoom out. There we go. Okay, Leonard Carter.
Yeah.
They like the plants a lot.
Yeah.
Is that
My
your
mom she loved flowers. I didn't get that from her. And then this is a picture of her later on. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I can see the resemblance.
I get that a lot.
Well, you're doing your hair the same too.
It's funny how we're a lot like our parents, even though we said we wouldn't be like them,
Oh,
but we're a lot like them.
because you
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, is there anything that I haven't asked you that you want to make sure we get?
I don't think so. I think what I would like for people to take away is that even though we didn't have a lot of money, because we had love and community, there was such a nurturing environment where we grew up. And so even though our kids do better than we did, and we did better than our parents did, you still need that love for each other and that sense of community, no matter where you are, no matter how much you have or don't have, because that's what's going to make or break our neighborhoods. And also that the city understand that regardless of what side of town it is, all communities need to be treated fairly and properly. And the structural issues that those communities have, they need to be addressed so they don't become so bad that they're even almost impossible. And then people are driven away, they don't want to come back. So I'm hoping that they'll do better in terms of getting those communities up to where they need to be. Yeah. Mhm.
If I asked you what Woodville means to you in one word, what would you say?
Family.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.